Hello and welcome to.
You just do it like in my.
Always.
Okay.
Always. Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller, and today I am joined by my friend, my good friend, my best good buddy, John Bunn. John, Happy New Year. It is officially 2020. How are you doing?
I would say that I don't think I've ever been doing better in my entire life. It's a new decade. I love it. New beginnings. I've been doing a lot of looking back at my previous decade, where I was 10 years ago till today, and just I'm in that mindset, and just looking forward to the next decade and thinking about all the things coming up and just about the next wedding season, about this podcast. And so I'm doing really, really well. I'm just in a very happy spot doing things that I love. And, my family's noticing it. My friends are noticing it. I've been working out. I'm just feeling good about the new year and all of the amazing things that we have planned, with How to Film Weddings, with Redeemed Productions, with my family. I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing really, really well. I think that's just what people do at the flip of a new year, or in this case, the flip of a new decade. And just thinking about where you've been, where you're gonna go, your plans that you're gonna have. And so today, John and I wanted to take just a few minutes. This is going to be a short, abbreviated podcast, but we wanted to take a few minutes and kind of do a reflection on 2019, talk about some of the stuff that we've been to, share with you how much the How to Film Weddings channel, YouTube channel, podcast, how it's grown over the last year, and then kind of look forward to 2020 and maybe leave you with some little nuggets at the end for you to start your year off with very well. So John, I know you're a big numbers guy, and you keep track of all of the numbers for everything. So why don't you just share a little bit of some of the things that we have seen, some of the growth that we have experienced for How to Film Weddings that you have kept track of?
Yeah, so I heard an episode of the Goal Digger podcast, I think maybe this time last year, Jenna Kutcher, and she was just doing a year-end review, and it was really encouraging to me to just kind of see how, even though her business is bigger than mine or mine and Nick's, and her podcast is much bigger or whatever, but just to kind of hear the numbers of, where she started out the year and where she ended the year. And so this episode is not just going to be numbers, but I feel like it's encouraging to us, to Nick and I, just to see how far we've come in the last 12 months. But I think that as our community grows, the importance of that crock pot, that slow cooker, slow over time, just taking one day at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time, 1 decade at a time, building, it's very encouraging to the listeners as well to say, oh my goodness, in one short year, this is how far they've come. Oh, and I want to encourage the listener, hey, look back at your numbers a year ago. What were you charging? How many downloads did you have on your YouTube channel? How many Instagram followers did you have? So, yes, Nick, I am a numbers guy. I've got a whiteboard up here behind my camera. I've got notes on my phone. I love keeping track of numbers because it is motivational. It's so motivational to look back when you're climbing up your mountain, to look back down and say, wow, I've come a long way, instead of comparing yourself to somebody else's mountain. So, yeah, that's kind of what we thought, just to kind of run through some of the numbers from last year. And we the cool part about this community is there's so many people that are so fully invested, and we've never really shared any of these numbers kind of with anybody, but, Nick and I are always texting back and forth, wow, we had this many downloads today, or and so we just kind of wanted to pull the curtain back a little bit and say, this is how we grew in 2019, and we're really excited to then look into 2020. So starting out, Nick, I think a big thing, people ask us a lot, how many people are downloading your podcast? What are your numbers? Are you getting, I'm sure that there's millions of people, I'm sure that you think, but in the last 12 months, we were right at 100,000 downloads of the How to Film Weddings
100,000.
podcast. 100,000 times somebody clicked download. I want to listen to that episode. And like to think about that, in the last 12 months. And what's really interesting is January of last year, we had around 2,000 downloads in the month, up to over 14,000 in the month of December, and so it's 7 times bigger in 1 year of people listening to these episodes, and so to pass the 100,000 mark, blew us away. Like, we're so pumped with that. And so that was the first one we wanted to talk about, was the downloads number. The next thing on the list, Instagram. In January of this last year, we started out with 208 Instagram followers. So this time last year, we had 208 followers. Today, we have 2,375. So, 10 times the growth in 1 year. And I mean, you look at the numbers, it's 2,000 people following, that's great. But to come from 200 to 2,000 in 1 year, that's mind blowing to us. Mind
blowing. And then along those same lines, Instagram growth, but our Facebook group that we have, we didn't have one in January. It did not exist. And we launched it in February, and today it's 5,060 something in our group today.
5,077. Yeah, as of
5,077 as the time of this recording, and almost 5,100 people are a part of that group and are active in that group. So many people. And so many people, and it's just so cool to see people want to be encouraged by us, but also each other in that form. If you're a part of that group, you realize that it's a little bit different than some of the other wedding videographer groups, and we try to be positive, and we try to make it a good experience for you all. So we're really proud of the growth that has happened within that group.
I think that's the biggest one for me that's so exciting, is just the health of that group, and everybody that messages saying how much they love that group. And and we only expect it to continue to get bigger. We're adding hundreds of people a week at this point. And I think, Nick, when I'm reflecting on things, I remember texting you and just saying, maybe we should start a podcast. Maybe this is a podcast episode. What do you think anybody would care? Do you think? And I know I've said it before on the podcast, but it's the people that wrap their arms around this idea of how to film weddings, and what we're doing and what we stand for. That there are over 5,000 people. I grew up in a town of 2,000 people. That's 2.5 of my town, and these are real people. And, it's so neat to meet so many of you all and to get messages, and you do feel connected to us. And here I am in this little office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Nick in Wichita, Kansas. We've got some microphones. We hit record, we put it on the internet, and here we are. And so I just want to encourage you that if there is something in your heart, a podcast or a YouTube channel, there is no better time to start than now. You have literally no excuses. It's the beginning of the year. You're in a new decade. What if in 12 months you have a podcast, or what if in 12 months your YouTube channel has grown?
Yeah. So I know that a lot of people are thinking about changing and moving forward and, all of that kind of stuff right now. But before we kind of maybe jump into some of those things, of the stuff that John and I are excited about in 2020, because we definitely want to touch on those things, we also wanted to share some of the things that really excited us in 2019, specifically for How to Film Weddings. I know that John was able to go to Venture this past year and just kind of hang out and do a live podcast. I wasn't able to go, but that's okay.
On the Venture note, I don't want to cut you off.
Yes, you
do. I was so nervous, and I know, not nervous as in lost sleep over it, but to be in a room with the likes of White and Reverie and Forestry Films, and you read off this entire list of people, and to be able to host a podcast. And this was the first event that I went to after starting the podcast, and it was so weird for me to walk in a room and people line up and say, hey, I want to meet you. I know you. I'm this person. And it just was this really weird, surreal thing where I would walk up and say, hey, I'm John. And then someone would be like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, oh, this is so weird. Like, I love it. It's great. But at the same time, it was like such a weird experience to be a part of that. And like just to be able to host that podcast, I mean, what a dream come true. Just be able to sit there and host a podcast with, the whole crew, the entire speaking lineup of, Venture 2019. That was such a great experience.
And I will say, so we were able to go to Vision Quest this last October, and leading up to that, basically that's what John kept on telling me. He's like, I'm so excited that I don't have to do this by myself. I'm so excited that you get to experience all of this. Just this feeling that he had at Venture. We get to do it at Vision Quest. And at Vision Quest, we got a lot of the same comments. Thank you guys so much for what you're doing for the community. Your podcast is great. Who you have on there is great. What you guys stand for is great. And so, we're very thankful, and we recognize that, yes, we have put in work to build this thing and create this thing, but it would not be here. It would not be a thing if you did not listen to this, if you did not interact with us. So we're very grateful that you have given us the opportunity to use this platform and to buy into it and in our vision and our mission, for How to Film Weddings.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm so happy that we did get to go to Austin together and experience Vision Quest, with everybody there, and to be able to just kind of talk with Alex and Whitney and all that. Like, it's unreal to me still that the people that are just the industry leaders, the people that are winning the best of the best awards, to open up the doors for us and say, come down here, be a part of this. They brought us down there and took care of us, and that kind of thing. And going to WPPI was another thing that I was able to do, and go to Vegas and meet
someone
so many
recognized
people.
you from your voice.
It happened. That was
It's his favorite story.
It's not my favorite story. It's just weird. I don't know how to explain it, guys. I couldn't be a celebrity. I couldn't be a real celebrity. Now that there's 5,000 people in the world that know who I am, I'm good. No, but it was definitely I had never really been to many events with wedding filmmakers, and it made the world seem so much smaller. And this podcast has made the world seem so small. I'm talking to people on the daily from Australia and from Europe and from, Africa and from Canada and from Mexico and from Central America. And it's this world is so small because, it's there's never been a time in the history of the world where we could do something like this. 30 years ago, we couldn't have been doing this. And so we don't take a day, at all for granted doing this podcast. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely looking back on the year, Nick, thinking, the hindsight is 2020. I wish that we would have just got going even quicker, even faster. And so it's and I also think back to a year ago right now, we weren't even recording video. We were just doing audio. And that was it.
It was episode 16 with Matt Koza, which was towards the end of January of 2019, whenever we had video, and I messed up the recording wrong, and so it's all funky and it's all weird and it's really awful to watch. But it just seeing where the growth in all of that, it's so awesome, it's so cool, it's just a crazy thing to be a part of. And as I think back, we truly do get messages and comments often, just thank you for what you've built. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. And we are so grateful that we have created this thing where people are getting encouragement and where they are feeling this. And people I was able, we got a message not too long ago. They're earlier this year, I was charging $1,500 and I just booked a $4,000 wedding because of the stuff that you guys have taught me, and, that kind of stuff. And that's the encouraging thing, is that, we are helping people succeed in business. Yes, it's great for the name recognition, and it's great that we get invited to some of these things and speak, and that's so much fun. But we want you, the listener, to excel in your business. That's why we started this. We want you to excel. So yeah, it's fun for us, but I don't know if I can really put into words how cool it is to say, hey, because of this thing that you did, I am now able to do this. Like that's just such a cool
message.
feeling, and we're excited to continue to do that into 2020. Do you want to talk a little bit about Redeemed Productions from 2019? Do we want to hold this and kind of shift to there really quick?
I think so. I think that it's good to look back. For me,
that's what we're doing here. We're looking back.
That is true. Yes, it's good to look back on your business, not just on your listening to us on the podcast, I guess. But like, looking at just this time last year to this year, like watching a film of mine from a year ago till now, being around some of these creatives, Nick or, different people that have been able to watch my films and critique me. And, it's like I watched Nick's films from a year ago, his sound design today as opposed to a year ago. And so like looking back, not only on the films, but the numbers has been, as the New Year's clicked over, looking back, it's so encouraging. And like I said earlier, do that for your own business. Look at what you were doing a year ago. How much were you charging? And I know this time last year, my starting price was like $49.50, and now it's $6,500. And I attribute that to the community and to people being able to help me. And I make myself vulnerable, and Nick makes himself vulnerable, asking questions. How can we get better? And that is what happens, is slowly that tide rises. So yeah, last year, just a little bit about Redeemed. Was the first year that I shot less than 30 weddings in like 10 years. I was able to shoot 25 weddings this year, all across America. I shot in California and Texas and Missouri and Oklahoma. And I've talked a lot about the Italy wedding. That was a dream come true to get to go to Italy.
You went to Italy?
I did. Yes, I did. And I did.
I did. I wasn't aware.
Yes, and that was such a fun thing. My wife and I got to travel the world. It's like, and that kind of stuff for me is what I look back in 2019, and it's like, yes, I'm charging more, but for me personally, I spent more time with my family than I had ever spent before, and I was able to pour into how to film weddings and learn more about me. And I feel like 2019 for me was the year of like decluttering things out of my life that I didn't want to do and being intentional. And so the more intentional that I got, the more I was like, I'm not going to shoot more than 25 weddings. I'm not going to, take less than this amount of money. And so I look back at numbers on Instagram and YouTube, and, like the main numbers that stand out to me on January 1st, I had 6,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now I'm getting really close to 13,000 in 1 year. And it took me 8 years to get to 6,000 and then to double that in 1 year. And so, those kinds of things that I'm seeing, these trends, these things. And so, yeah, for me, that's what I'm thinking about with Redeemed. What about you with the old Wild Oak Films?
Yeah. No, this was our biggest year, our most profitable year ever. Last year we barely hit, into the six figures, and then this year we were into the six figures as a business, which was, super amazing. I shot more weddings than I've ever shot. We shot 26 weddings and one elopement, so 27 total. We put on, you didn't mention this, we put on a workshop, Wild Oak Workshop. You did a Redeemed workshop that we both helped each other out with. I booked a wedding at the beginning of the year for around $3,300, and I booked an $8,500 wedding. I booked a $7,700 wedding just in the last few weeks. My starting price, we're recording this at the end of December, and it'll go up, January 2nd at the very beginning of the year. But this morning I sent a quote that my base price was $5,000, which that's the highest base price that I've ever sent off to anyone. So, that's going up. When you look at numbers, YouTube, I had 877 at the beginning of the year, and today I am at 8,902 or 8,802, somewhere in there. So close to 9,000 in the year. Instagram followers went from 2,400 to like 4,100. So, and these numbers again, that like because I have a bigger Instagram following, does that mean that I'm booking more weddings? Not necessarily, but you can just see the growth and you can see those things. And it's just an encouraging thing to look back on. We often so much compare to others. Well, I only have, 9,000 subscribers on YouTube and John has 13,000. So I'm like, ugh. Well, realize that I have blown away John's subscriber count and how many I have got them in the last 2 years versus how long it took him to get, almost 9,000 subscribers. So it's just, you compare and you lose, but whenever you look back at yourself and see how far you've come, that's something that you can really pride yourself in. And then to springboard into the next year as we look forward to 2020, as of right now for Wild Oak Films, I have 14 weddings booked. We're traveling to California, Colorado 3 times right now. Nebraska, even going to Nebraska to shoot a wedding.
All right,
haven't ever shot a wedding there. And we're charging the most that we've ever charged in our business. Averaging probably around $5,600 or so with everything. So moving right along, very excited for Wild Oak Films and our business and continuing to do that along with How to Film Weddings. So I'm going to let you share what 2020 is looking like for Redeemed and then jump into maybe some of our things that we're looking forward to 2020 for How to Film Weddings.
Yeah. I mean, so, I think that if you're listening to this, there's no, it took me so long to figure out that, I have a preference as well. And, I don't have to want as many weddings as Nick, or I don't have to want to edit weddings, or I don't want and over the last few years as I've grown as an individual, I've realized I have to put a line in the sand and put boundaries in my life for things that are important to me. And so looking forward into 2020, it's I want to have more family time than ever before. And I love educating and I love teaching and I love that look on people's face when they're telling me, oh my goodness, you've literally changed my life because I'm making $1,000 more a wedding. That let me quit my job. That let me, and so I would encourage you to really look into yourself and say, what makes me happy? And that's something that I really wanted to do for 2020. So not only am I excited about my numbers, but I'm excited so much about the fact that I'm not planning on editing more than 5 weddings. Of the weddings that I do, I'm sending the majority of them to Wedditor. I've got a great groove going on with them. I don't love to edit. It's fine, but I would much rather be thinking about the business and how I can run that and serve. And so I've always felt guilty about that, but finding someone like Wedditor has given me the freedom to say, oh my goodness, I have all this time. So I'm really looking forward to developing content for my own Redeemed Productions YouTube channel. Things behind the scenes videos, yes, that kind of stuff, but more so tools that people, for brides to be able to, it's why you should hire a wedding videographer content or things I love pouring into the YouTube, and I see that being something, I'm watching the dollars come in from YouTube. So, but with all that being said, I just hit 15 weddings for 2020. After I hit 12, I moved my starting price up to $6,500. And I can't tell you how scary that is for me right now. I've booked 2 since moving it to $6,500 to start. And, I'm not really looking to book more than 18 to 19 weddings. And I'm already at 15. So I'm turning down weddings left and right now, which is crazy, but it feels so good to know that I'm just good and taken care of. And so, moving forward for 2020 and looking even into 2021, I want to shoot less than I ever have before. That's my main goal. And so, 3 years ago, I shot 39 weddings. The year before that, I shot 52 weddings. And so down to 5 to 10 weddings by 21, 22, that's kind of my happy spot. And that's because I've evaluated like what's important, and the most important thing to me right now is family, and then educating people through how to film weddings. So I think that's pretty much it for Redeemed. I mean, there's so many things with Redeemed Productions, but that's really, I think, all that for right now.
Yeah.
Thinking about how to film weddings, though, the thing, like, I have to say this, like, it has been the biggest blessing in my entire life when it comes to my business, that this is working, and that people are, it's like we have sponsors, and they're like paying us, and we love our sponsors, and we're true to, like, we use them and we work with them, and like How to Film Weddings has opened doors, Nick. Like, I can't, like, it's been a lot of work. I mean, we've been working on this for over 2 years now. Right at 2 years. Yeah. Right at 2 years ago when we really got going. And it's been a lot of work, but like, it doesn't feel like work. I could come in every day and do this. Whereas coming in and editing a wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of filled in a passion, kind of spot. And I've shared this story before with, some kind of close friends and stuff, but, I was a youth pastor for 11 years, and my, the preacher that I work with, he asked me, and we still go to that church, and he says, "Do you miss it?" And like, without skipping a beat, I'm like, no, I don't miss it. Not like I don't miss being a minister. I love what I'm doing now, being a wedding videographer. But he's like, is there any part that you wish you could have? And the teaching aspect of it was a hole that was left in me. And How to Film Weddings has definitely filled that void in my life. So I'm very thankful, feel very blessed, just like you, to say that. I'm just excited for 2020 and what's coming. And we're actually going to be doing some for real teaching. We have some teaching. We are on to be some of the speakers at Venture. I'm not exactly sure what that will look like yet, but May 4th through 7th in Denver, we will be there speaking. It's looking like we're going to be doing some maybe some shootings, little educating, some stuff at WPPI. Yeah. That's not solidified, but all things are pointing to that we're going to be out at WPPI. We have some really, really big things that we are really, really excited to share with you. It's just not quite time yet, but you will be hearing about some of that stuff really, really soon. I don't know. I'm just so excited for the future of How to Film Weddings in 2020 and what we're looking forward to. I don't know. I feel like I just talked a lot. Do you? I know you have something to add.
You didn't talk a lot. Yeah, you didn't talk a lot compared to me talking a lot. I mean,
that's true. John does do that.
Well, I like to talk. Can't help myself. Whenever thinking about 2020, we started planning. We've had some projects in the mix since May and June of 2019 that we've been working on that we think are going to change. Like the goal for How to Film Weddings, our North Stars, we want to elevate the wedding industry. We want the wedding video industry. We want to lift the videography industry to where if you're plugged into the How to Film Weddings community, you will be one of the best in your city just because of the information that you're getting. And so, for us, we think, okay, we only have so many hours in the day. What can we put our hand to that is going to help you the most? And so we have some incredible educational resources coming soon, things to help you with your business. And we'll be announcing some stuff very soon, but that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. I mean, I couldn't be more excited about it. I know, Nick, that as we're kind of wrapping up this little brief half-hour episode of the podcast, like, I just want to say thank you to you for being such a good friend. Like, I don't want to get all emotional. Yes, you're I'm welcome. Really happy that our paths have crossed. Hey, I'm trying to be serious.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But I think that for me, if this didn't make any money and didn't do any, it has filled a friendship, void for me, having such a good friend in Nick and his wife, Jen, and just being able to, connect on a business level, personal level with somebody so well. And then to all, the 80 podcast guests or however many it is at this point that have taken their time and that message us now. And I honestly just have to say thank you to everyone involved, from, Blake, our editor, to every single person that's been on our podcast, to the thousands and tens of thousands of you that are listening to the podcast all around the world. So wherever you're listening to this, we just have to say thanks.
Yeah, and I will say thank you to you, John. I know I was joking with you when you were saying that, but your friendship and the relationship that we have does mean a lot to me. It's kind of like my wife jokes with me a lot that I text with John more than I talk to her. Like, that's not true, but like she's like she sees me pick up my phone and her immediate response is, "What's John saying now?" Like, it's not even like, "Who are you texting?" Right? And we've just become close friends and business partners, but we're more than business partners. We actually talk about life and share and stuff. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And again, I said this earlier, but to all of our listeners, I want to thank you so much, because the only reason that this is successful is because you have listened and you have taken to heart some of the things that we are teaching and some of the things that we are saying. So we want to thank you for that. I do, if it's okay, I want to share a deep nugget. I'm gonna call it a deep nugget before I even say it. As we jump into 2020, it's not a nugget if I say that.
No, I said drop it. Drop your nugget.
Oh, okay. I am going to drop my nugget. Sorry, that was an internet connection problem there. Anyway, as we're moving into 2020, literally last night, my wife Jen went to Target and she was just looking around at their books and she counted. It was somewhere from 15 to 20 books, and that was without like really looking. And all of them are about get your time back, focus on you without losing the, just all of this stuff. And we know with it being shifting into the new year, people are thinking about self and improvement. People are thinking about their businesses and how to make them better. And if you're not careful, that can get super, super overwhelming, and you can really get locked up and you can really get kind of defeated before anything happens. Okay. So our encouragement to you is to, if you're looking at your business, if you're looking at your life, if you're inspired to do something because it's the new year, take one step. Do one thing, okay? If there are 10 things that need to be done in your business, why don't you look at that first thing that always sticks out to you, figure that thing out, and then go to the next one. If there's something that you need to do in your personal life, don't do all 20 of them at once. Start with one and then take a step forward from there. When a thing that my dad always told me that is not something that he made up, it's something that I know has been out there in the world for a while. But I came to him one day and I was like, "Dad, we have this student loan debt problem and all of that." And I was really stressed out. And he goes, "Nick, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. You eat an elephant one bite at a time." That was the idea. And so if there's something big that is going on that you need to accomplish, just take it one step at a time, one day at a time. Okay, there's my nugget for 2020. Just do one step at a time, one thing at a time. Again, something that I keep coming back to as I've been thinking about the new year is we totally overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10. And so if you take just one thing and you do it consistently through this year, what can you do consistently the next year? And it's that crockpot method, and you'll just continue to grow. So anyway, that's my not parting words because we're just starting the new year, but that's my 2020 starting the year encouragement to you. One step at a time, move forward and see where your business can go and see where you personally can grow as well. So, John, this was our short abbreviated podcast. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I just will say to the community, keep being attentive, keep joining in on the conversation, keep inviting others. You guys are all sharing videos and sharing content and sticking up for us in certain groups and tagging us. And we will, continue to provide a free podcast for you, to download and listen to and get better. We love doing this. We love that that's something we can do. So we're going to continue to do that. We're not going anywhere. We have so many awesome things coming out. 2020 is going to be your best year if you make it your best year, but you've got to be the one to do it. So we can give you all the encouragement in the world, but if you don't get out there and practice with your camera, if you don't get out there and meet people, if you don't get out there and do the things you should be doing one day at a time, one bite at a time, you're not going to get to where you want to go. So Nick and I are here for you. We're thankful for you. And I guess, Nick, if I can land the plane, I guess
Yeah,
at this,
I will let you land this plane.
All right. Like, share, and subscribe this video if you get a chance. Hit that bell if you're watching on YouTube so you get a notification when we post. But thank you so much, and until next time, we will see ya.
See ya.